So today, we're going to dig into a paper that's a pretty big deal. It actually won the prestigious Frisch Medal, and it does something incredible. It answers a question that's been bugging economists for decades, and it gets right to the heart of how we can help entire communities, not just individuals, thrive.
I mean, think about it. It sounds simple, right? If you give $1 to a family that really needs it, does that dollar stop there, or does it start a journey? Does it ripple out into the community, boosting the local shops, maybe paying a neighbor's wages, and in the end, lifting up the whole local economy? And the biggest question of all, how could we possibly know for sure?
Well, for a long time, economists had this fantastic tool for measuring the direct impact of a policy on one person, but they had this huge, massive blind spot when it came to seeing all those wider ripple effects. Okay, so that tool was the Randomized Controlled Trial, or the RCT. And the idea behind it is really powerful. You basically create a treatment group that gets, say, a cash transfer, and a control group that doesn't. And by comparing the two, you can figure out the direct effect of that cash with amazing precision. It became the absolute gold standard.
But here's the catch. A standard RCT was kind of like a spotlight. It did a brilliant job of lighting up the effect on the one person who got the money. But it couldn't see anything happening in the shadows all around them. It was great at measuring what we call partial equilibrium, but it completely missed the general equilibrium. You know, the spillover effects on neighbors, whether local prices went up or down, or how it helped a local shopkeeper's business. It missed the big picture, the floodlight view of the entire economy. Which leads to the million-dollar question, right? How on earth do you measure something that's basically invisible? Well, that's exactly what Dennis Egger and his co-authors set out to do in their groundbreaking 2022 paper. They designed a radically new kind of experiment to finally see the whole picture. They went to rural Kenya. There, an NGO called Give Directly gave out these large, one-time cash transfers, about $1,000 each, to more than 10,000 households. Now, to give you some perspective, this huge injection of cash was equal to more than 15% of the entire local economy's yearly output. I mean, we're not talking about a little nudge here. This was a massive economic shock.
And this is where the real genius of the study comes in. Instead of just having villages that got the treatment and villages that didn't, the researchers randomized the intensity of the treatment. Some areas were high saturation, meaning lots of people got cash. Other areas were low saturation, and that was the key. It created different levels of cash flowing through the local economy, which is exactly what you need to start measuring those spillovers.
This setup was just brilliant because it let them finally measure the invisible. So first, they could do the standard thing. Compare people who got cash to those who didn't in the same area. That gives you the direct effect. But here's the truly brilliant move. They could then compare what happened in the high cash areas versus the low cash areas. And by doing that, they could perfectly isolate the spillover, the pure effect of just being surrounded by a booming economy, completely separate from whether you personally got a single dollar.
Okay, so with this amazing new design, what did they actually find? Well, the results were honestly stunning, and they showed just how powerful those invisible ripples can be. The first big surprise was just, wow. 18 months after the money went out, households that did not receive any cash at all saw their own consumption go up by a massive 13%. This was it. This was the first concrete experimental proof of enormous spillover effects.
So you're probably asking, okay, where did that extra money even come from? Well, the data showed a really clear story. With all this new cash flying around, local business revenues just soared. And this wasn't just about the people who got the money spending it. It created a whole cycle of demand. And maybe the most important part? It happened without causing any serious inflation. Consumer prices went up by less than 1%. So these were real, tangible gains, not just paper gains.
And all of this leads to the ultimate question in macroeconomics. What's the total bang for your buck? To figure that out, economists use this idea called the fiscal multiplier.
Okay, so what is a fiscal multiplier? It's actually a pretty simple idea. It just measures the total economic impact you get from an initial injection of cash. If the multiplier is 1, it means $1 in created $1 of activity. But if it's above 1, it means that first dollar kicked off a chain reaction, creating even more value as it bounced around the economy. So, what number did they land on? They estimated the local transfer multiplier was 2.5. That is a huge number.
Let that sink in. For every single dollar given to a household in need, the local economy grew by $2.50. And what's so cool is how that happened. It wasn't just one thing. Sure, it was partly people spending and investing the money, but there were also these huge boosts to local business profits and, really importantly, to the wages of local workers. That first dollar wasn't just spent, it was earned and then respent and then re-earned, benefiting pretty much everyone.
So why is this one number, 2.5, such a game changer? Well, because it built a bridge between two worlds of economics that, honestly, were pretty far apart for a long time.
I think a quote from the paper itself really captures the breakthrough. It says, "This study is among the first to exploit randomized controlled trial methods to directly estimate macroeconomic parameters." They took a tool that was designed for micro questions, what happens to one person, and they successfully used it to answer one of the biggest questions in macroeconomics, what happens to the whole system.
And that right there is why this is so important. It proved that we can use these really rigorous, on-the-ground experiments to actually inform massive policy debates, everything from fiscal stimulus packages to universal basic income. It brought real-world experimental data into conversations that for a long time were pretty much stuck in the world of pure theory.
You know, to really get why this is such a leap forward, it helps to zoom out and see the bigger picture. This study really is the culmination of decades of progress in economics. If you go back a few decades, you had pioneers like Robert Townsend building models to just test if village economies worked the way our theories said they should. Then, a bit later, you had researchers like Kabosky and Townsend using new models to try and estimate the moving parts of a village economy. But what Egger and his team did was the final incredible step. They designed an experiment to go out and directly measure the entire village economy in action. You see this amazing evolution, from just modeling the world to actually going out and measuring it. So, at the end of the day, what this paper really shows us is just how far the field of econometrics has come. It shows that our modern tools, when you combine a clever experimental design with powerful economic theory, can now bridge that enormous gap from the smallest choice a single family makes all the way up to the complex, interconnected dance of an entire economy. And that, well, that just leaves you wondering, what other huge questions can we finally answer now?